So how does it start? So let's say like, how does it kind of start? So if a lot of people are growing up, because it feels like a lot of times that a lot of our media or our society has wanted to break up the nuclear family, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's sometimes like I buy into that. I grew up outside of a regular family like you did. And so, you definitely see the side effects of that. I have siblings that went kind of errant ways and found, hope and purpose and friendship in people that were making poor choices. I got kind of lucky and found some friends that were doing the opposite kind of, but not having that role model, I think, in the home probably is probably a big start. So if that's something big that's going on, how do we, like where do we even start with that, how do you start to fix the family first, I guess? I mean, what do you fix first,
Well,
like role models?
You've exactly zeroed in on the ground zero of it. If you look at, so first off, let's look at the problem. If you go into a morgue and you have 5 young people who've died by suicide, 4 of them are men.
Wow. But women aren't, women don't want to, they would rather have somebody kill them, I think. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or that's crazy to say, but it's like,
I agree with you. That was crazy to say.
But they love Dateline. You know what I'm saying? Like women, there's something.
Well, they like crime dramas. There's a difference between like crime drama.
Yeah, but they want a guy to unexpectedly come over type of shit.
Well, there's some weird shit. Like, so for example, women are just as prone to try to commit suicide. Unfortunately, men are more comfortable with gunplay and are more successful at it. But if you look at where a boy comes off the tracks, it's when he loses a male role model.
Right.
More single-parent homes than any country except for Sweden. And the interesting thing is that a girl in a single-parent home, when we say single-parent, we mean 92% of the time headed by mom.
Right, because usually children stay with the mom.
The family court is very biased towards women for a lot of good reasons, some less good reasons. So a girl in a single-parent home, just living with mom, has the same college attendance, the same levels of self-harm and depression, the same likelihood of depression. She's fine. Once a boy loses a male role model, he becomes dramatically more likely to be incarcerated, less likely to go to college, more likely to engage in self-harm. What most of the studies show is that while boys are physically stronger, they're mentally and emotionally much weaker than girls. They mature later. They're more prone to violence. They're more prone to self-harm. They're literally 18 months behind their prefrontal cortex. They're biologically less mature. And without the male role model, the deep voice, the admiration, the virtuous role model of a man, they come off the tracks. And when you look at a lot of our communities with how many single-parent homes they have, when you look at a lot of kids aren't in after-school programs, kids are obese, not playing sports as much, so they don't have as much interaction with a coach. Maybe they don't know a pastor because they're not going to church or temple. There are millions of young boys who grow up and the first male role model they have is a prison guard. And so the solution, if you were to try and weigh in with programs, it's, all right, I go back to masculinity. The first circle of masculinity is you take care of yourself. You're in good shape. You have good self-care. You are economically viable. Right? You take care of yourself. Next ring out. You can start taking care of your family. Okay. Help out your parents, help out your siblings. You can start taking care of people at work. You overpay them. You're concerned about them. You're empathetic with them.
Out. Because two of them are in here.
You start taking care of your community.
Okay.
And then...
Yeah, things that make you feel good, things that make you feel purpose.
Surplus value. And then I think also we need to create a kind of a gestalt or a default or a zeitgeist in our society where one of the ultimate expressions of masculinity is you take an interest in the well-being of a boy that's not yours. And unfortunately, because of some very unfortunate instances in the Catholic Church or well-publicized stories about
Chuck E. Cheese's
or Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah, huh?
I was on Bill Maher and I said, more men like you, Bill, need to get involved in a young man's life. He's a single guy. He's a good role model. And he's like, I can't get involved in a 15-year-old boy's life. You know what they'd say about me? And that's the problem, because there's a lot of men out there with a lot of love to give who feel a lot of fraternal and paternal love. And if you just did a quick survey of the people in your work and your neighbors, you're going to find single mothers or a lot of your friends whose sons are struggling. And you don't have to be a baller. You just need to be a virtuous guy trying to live your life.
Yeah.
And my mom was really good at that. I had a guy down the hallway come over with his girlfriend and say, we're going horseback riding. And he took me, and he would start taking me. My mom, a couple of my mom's boyfriends stay involved in my life after they were broken up. I had a stockbroker, Theo, when I was 13, I walked into Dean Witter Reynolds with $200 my mom's boyfriend had given me. Mm-hmm. And I bought 12 shares of Columbia Pictures for $16 a share. And every day for 2 years, I'd go to Emerson Junior High pay booth, put in 2 dimes and call him. And I wasn't a very popular kid. 2 or 3 times a week after school, I'd go to the stock brokerage.
If you're buying stocks at lunch, yeah, you're not popular. You know, hey, you're forward thinking.
True.
Yeah, but
sure, it's paid off now.
Yeah, no, I get that part.
Got me cool. Made me cool later in life. But
At a certain point, yeah, for sure.
This guy, Cy Saro, this 30-year-old guy working at Dean Witter, and I'm 46 years later, I got a text from Cy yesterday. We're still close.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah, we were out of each other's lives for 30 years, and then we reconnected. I actually asked my class to try and track him down, and they did. But if you're, I love the statement. I think the true expression of manhood or being a good person is planting trees the shade of which you'll never sit under. But I think more specifically for men, well, I'll ask you straight up.
Yeah.
Are you mentoring any young men or boys?
Let me think about that. Maybe one of my nephews. But I mean, he has his father, but I think I keep a constant relationship with him because I want to be a part of his life. But in a more local environment in my community, no.
Do you realize in New York, there's big sisters and big brothers? There are 3 times as many applicants for big sisters than there are for big brothers.
And why is that? Because young men just aren't, mothers don't get or the kids, the boys don't apply?
I think men have been told that if you take an interest in the life of a boy, that there's something wrong and people need to be suspect of it.
People would definitely question it. Oh, it's crazy. I remember this started maybe about 10 years ago. If I saw somebody's kid or something and I wanted to give them a compliment, you feel like you couldn't.
You got to be careful.
Yeah, and then suddenly you
got to be careful.
Everything, there's a legal issue or you can't.
Or people are suspicious.
Yeah, there's a famous case of this kid, Greg Kelly. Can you bring that up? Who was his mother was watching children. She ran a home in their after school care in their home, and one of the kids accused him of something, and it seemed very flippant, but he ended up going to jail for 3 years, and it seemed like a witch hunt, Yeah,
there was that child care place in California where it was all made up. But Theo, what you were talking about with your nephew, you can still play a huge role because I can attest to this. There's research showing. Your nephew right now, especially once he hits 15 or 16, he's more inclined to listen to you than his dad.
Wow.
So I noticed this.
Yeah, did you notice things? Yeah, who were some people that, because sometimes I think about a voice, it could be just like, dude, sometimes it was like, I remember one of my mom's boyfriends bought me and my brother tickets to go see a Saints game, right? And we were so excited. It was like a big adventure for us, So it is funny how little things that somebody shares with you, or moments that they have. I remember there was a teacher that would sit outside with me and talk to me sometimes after class. That was huge to me. It's amazing the effect that you can have, I guess, that you don't realize. Who were some of those people for you?
I was really lucky. I played sports, so I had coaches. A couple of my mom's boyfriends, like I said, after they broke up, stayed involved in my life. I had Cy, the stockbroker. And also, I'm a big fan of the Greek system at colleges. I joined a fraternity.
Yeah.
And while people talk about everyone's got to find their tribe, you got to find your brothers or your sisters. You got to shrink the world down to a small group of people. And for me, I don't think I would have graduated from UCLA had I not joined a fraternity. I immediately got something called a big brother. I had roommates. We all kept tabs on each other. We all gave each other a tremendous amount of shit, but it was sort of like a guiding guidepost.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's so much fun. Like, there's nothing better than like when you think about the times you were on a team of some sort, right?
100%.
Just like the feeling,
Did you play sports growing up?
I did until I was like 11 years old. I didn't do much sports. I played a little bit of baseball, but it was like the field was like uneven in our town, and so every ball went to the same guy.
The field was uneven?
Yeah. We had a bad field over there. And so all this dude, and I was there.
You couldn't get the guy with the radical, the amazing fence to give you the new field?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, bro.
But it doesn't have to be sports. It can be band. It can be chess club. It can be church. But everyone's got to find your tribe.
Right. So now we're looking at some solutions to some of the things you're talking about for young people and even for mothers 100%. That have single that, because a lot of times with moms, it's hard to find that space. Like, how do I put my kid into a place that's going to be safe, or what's the type of thing to get them involved in, know? And I think that was one thing that was tough for my mom. She just didn't have as much time. I was fortunate. I had a basketball coach that would give me rides home from practice. And so that changed a lot of things, because then as long as I could get to practice and I could get home. So that was like an amazing role model that I had, this guy, Coach Steve, that was really awesome. I think, and then, you're right. Like, how can I do that in my own community? Like, what are ways that I could start to do that? But so creating a group for your kid, finding a group for your kid to be in.
Well, there's a lot of more systemic things we could do. So, for example, I'm a big fan of vocational programming. In America, we have this kind of zeitgeist that if your kid doesn't go to Dartmouth and end up at Google, then not only has the kid failed, but you failed as parents. And 2/3 of our kids are not going to end up with a college degree. 3% of LinkedIn profiles in the US say apprentice. It's 11% in the UK and Germany. We need more of an apprentice culture, and we need to stop shaming kind of trades jobs.
Yeah.
I think we should start boys, we should redshirt them. We should start them a year later in kindergarten, because they're literally biologically less mature than their female counterparts. You don't notice this as much because you don't have kids, but I have a 14-year-old. My 14-year-old just had a Halloween party, 15 boys, 15 girls. The boys are 14. A couple of the girls look like they could be the junior senator from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They look 35.
Yeah.
And they act that way. They act that mature. They literally mature faster. I think if a college isn't growing its freshman seats faster than population, it should lose its tax-free status, because it's no longer a public service. It's a hedge fund with classes. I'm a big fan of the idea of mandatory national service. I've spent some time in Israel recently. Despite the existential threats and the problems in Israel, there's less young adult depression in Israel than almost any Western country. And I think it's because of national service. They're serving the agency of something bigger than themselves. They're outside. They're in great shape. They're learning how to handle weapons, equipment. It's where they meet co-founders of businesses. It's where they make lifelong friends. It's where they meet potential mates. So I think mandatory national service would be huge for us.
What would you say to mothers who have children, right? Single mothers who have children? How can they do that for their kids? One thing that I will think is put your kid into a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. I think it's the best. It was the best place that I ever went. I trained for like maybe a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
It was the first place I ever went where you would be wrestling one second, but then having an emotional conversation with somebody the next second, because it was very...
You and Lex Friedman, you're both really into jiu-jitsu, right?
He's still doing it, practicing, right?
Yeah.
I just kept getting hurt so bad, and it was affecting my ability to work. But it was like, you were like monkeys, like you would like be battling against somebody, but even if you lost, they still cared about you. So there was this element of safety that you started to learn, right? And that felt like years of manhood in months that I was learning.